Kia ora koutou. We've been told we've got to start. No waiting. So kia ora, ko maru haere muri niho niho taku ingoa, ko te whānau apanui, Ngāti Parau me Ngaitahu, tōku iwi. My name is Maru, I'm the Managing Director of Meteor Interactive. My team is here, who I will get them to introduce themselves shortly. We've come down from Auckland. We've been making games for about 18 years now. But for today's panel discussion, we're going to be talking about a specific topic in gaming, specifically around Māori game development and the processes that we work through with our story writers or our Moku artists, whoever they might be, in bringing a game to life. I think the main point of our panel discussion is to talk about the duty of care, which is quite a big topic, especially around Indigenous content. It's more important because we are Māori too. So we don't want to get things wrong, do things wrong, or take things upon ourselves that we think is right, only to find out that it was wrong. So it's quite an important topic to understand te ao Māori in its general form, and then how to apply that knowledge into a gaming platform. Because as we know, games are very technical, very immersive. We've got a lot to think about. It's just not, does that graphic look nice? Does that graphic work? We've actually got to make sure that that graphic is in the right place, on the right person or character at the right time. So there's a lot of thought behind that. We'll be bringing just real-world practical knowledge that if you are thinking about making Māori games or games that have Māori content in them, that you might be able to walk away from this talk and have a better understanding or be more confident to be able to approach Māori story writers or iwi, hapu, or whānau. Just depends where the stories are coming from, and it also depends on what you want to do. So before I get, I'll get the team to introduce themselves. Then I'll show you a video, just a very quick video on some of the work that we've been doing, and then we'll get into panel discussion. So we'll start with Reuben. Kia ora, Reuben.
Hello. Is this working? Cool. Kia ora koutou. Ko mota tau te maunga, ko kai ko ta awa, ko nā toku mata whaoroa te waka, ko tauhina rea te marae, ko nā te hine te iwi, ko Reuben te rehu shortlana hau. I'm Reuben. I do 3D animation at Meteor Interactive. I help with creating 3D game assets and other such things, as well as helping Māori artists bring their work into the digital space of gaming. Yeah.
Kia ora, Reuben.
Kia ora. Is this on?
Yeah. Just talk and you'll find out.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko hine tōku ingoa, ko Ngāti Parau, Ngaitahu me te whānau apanui o Kemu. Hi everybody, my name's Hine. I'm from the east coast of New Zealand and South Island. I work at Meteor as a social media manager, and I also consult with Māori story writers.
Hello everybody. The astute of you may have noticed that I am in fact not Michael van der Meer. He unfortunately couldn't make it to this conference, so I am stepping in as the Ngāti Pākehā, and my name is Michaela. Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Table Mountain toku maunga, ko Gamtus toku awa, ko Port Elizabeth toku iwi, ko Mariette toku mama, ko Lance toku papa, ko Michaela aho. Hi, I am Michaela. I am primarily a 2D artist at Meteor Interactive, but I am up to doing anything that Mario asks me to do.
Thank you, Michaela.
Mori nei te whānei, ko Rikirangi Herumana toku ingoa, te whānau apanui te atiawa mai iwi. Closest I whakapapa to and connect with is my little hapu, ko te whānau anuku based in Omaio. I am a Māori game designer, as well as if I added on to that, I'd go on all day, but I'm lucky enough I whakapapa to te atiawa as some of our whanaungas here today. My job is game design as well as iwi liaison and doing everything Maru says when she says it. My mahi at Metia is awesome because I get to connect with a lot of our people and confront a lot of these challenges, as Maru's saying, which not just us, but everyone externally who's looking to work within Aotearoa, regardless of te ao Māori, is going to face. So, yeah, my mahi at Metia is all around making sure our waka is steady.
Yes, and we do have a rather steady waka. We've got a lot of people on board that we work with in our team, as well as externally, to make sure that we're telling their story, because a lot of resources that we make is about telling their story. So it's not even our story. So we have to ensure that our processes are pretty tight and that we can work well with them under pressure, usually with very short time frames too. So anyway, we'll talk about some of these experiences that we have while working with Māori. Just to give you an idea, I hope I'm going to push the right button, of some of our work. I'll just play a video and then we'll get into our kōrero. That was very quick. I shortened that video down so much from our talk, but anyway, so that will give you an idea about the mahi that goes into presenting something that looks as authentic as we can do in the gaming world. So yeah, we'll go over to our questions for our team. And most of all, I will stress though, the importance of having Michaela, well, was going to be Michael, but Michaela on our panel is for the perspective of a non-Māori working with Māori kaupapa. So working with Māori stories, and so that's what Michaela is here to share her experience, because as you might have been able to tell, the rest of us are Māori. So, as a team, I know that a lot of our processes, and especially working with Māori, are pretty tight. Can you tell us one of the reasons why we are approached a lot to make Māori games? Why is there a sudden interest in developing Māori content on the gaming platform? Take it away.
I think the huge resurgence in a kōrero I'll dip into quickly has to do with the fact that the spotlight's on us. For those who don't know me via my connections to my motu of Wahike was put heavily in the spotlight around the time of Lord of the Rings. Not long thereafter, we had the likes of Moana and things like that. To the outside, things like this seem awesome. Internally, within Te Whanapuni, which I can speak on, these conversations were had for a long time prior to that happening. The world spotlight is on us. We have one opportunity to do it right. We have multiple attempts at that first chance. But if we don't do our due diligence, we don't come through and learn how to not only work with the world of te ao Māori, but work within the intricacies of all the different hapu, iwi, rohe, who have different spins on things, and then figure out how to ensure that that's packaged appropriately. Our narrative is packaged appropriately. We don't offend, and this is a huge part of our future moving forward, is to ensure that that approach is done as tika as true as we can, and ensuring that it safeguards the content and the information we're capturing now. These kōrero, I don't like the word myths, I never have. Capturing these kōrero and these stories to empower our youth, but also ensure to the best of our capacity that it safeguards it for the future.
I mean, even adding on to that kind of kaupapa is, I guess, the space now with our new generation of young who are now even more passionate about gaming than ever. We find ourselves accommodating sort of that resurgence for cultural recognition and wanting to put that out there as a sort of a safe space for Māori to come forth and feel good that there can be games like that out there. And if we can facilitate that, that's amazing, all things considered, considering our goal and our long-term goals as well. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a component of that.
That's a good point you brought up, is safeguarding. We are fortunate that we get to work with different hapu and iwi. So as an explanation, iwi is the tribal group. So for example, I'm from Ngāti Porou, Te Whanau Apanui. Some of our resources and games that we do are very specific to that region. And so we're in I guess, in a really good position to work with a lot of different story writers from a lot of different regions. And so safeguarding that information that we're putting out to the world is very important. And looking after that data and resources is paramount for us to be able to tell that story correctly. So what do you think, the approaches that we have to us to make games, what do you think one of the biggest challenges is for us as a development team to work on a new resource that is a story that isn't ours, to translate that into a digital game or app or whatever it's going to be? What are one or two of the biggest challenges in that area?
Specifically, is you've got to remember you're usually working with one or two representatives of an area. You're also working with a different form of reo quite often. You're working with a network of people that are reliant on each other at times which differ. Things like COVID, they throw spanners in the works to a huge degree. It's about understanding that you're working with a community that's new to game design, they're new to game development, but they're deeply rooted in their whakapapa, they're deeply rooted in the kōrero that they're sharing. So often you encounter the apprehensive side of it. So for us moving forward, I think a lot of our kōrero has been about the importance of that kanohi ki te kanohi, that face-to-face. And also questioning straight away. Do not leave those questions until the end of a project or the end of your kōrero, because they do things very differently down the road. If I go to my auntie and I say, oh, my mother was like this, just in the world of te ao Māori, they're going to look me in my face and say, kaore boy, that's not the case. So just ensuring that those understandings are there off the bat to the best of our capabilities, and then going through the differentiations between the reo and the worldview, the whakapapa, the stories, and also handing them the rākau, giving them control, and making sure that we communicate that very openly, that this is your whala's rākau, we're here to tautoko. And if there's things around like the formalities which the education system require, then we make sure that that's something which we have to be firm on, but also say that we understand the other side and we do our best to make sure as an intermediary that things are done again as tika as possible.
Yeah. So I think basically, just to nutshell that question, or the answers to that question, is listen and communicate really, really well, because it's sometimes, well, most of the time when we're working with our story writers, it's not actually our story. We're telling their story, so we have to see their vision, and we have to present their vision in a way that when they show their iwi or their tamariki or rangatahi, their young people, that they're happy with it. And so it becomes quite important for us to build processes, I suppose, and put them in place. So that's an important aspect of working with Māori story writers, or actually anybody in te ao Māori. It really highlights, especially lately, the reason why. I'm going to throw this one to the team, but we all know the importance of why you should have a kōrero, why you should talk to someone about working with Māori content in the gaming platform, well, any platform. And I'd like the team to answer, what have you seen? What are some really bad examples of cultural appropriation? And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the gaming world, but we've seen plenty of examples in the gaming world. So would you like to share what you've seen?
I can start out this one. I think it's, first of all, important to say that I'm very aware that I am more blind to the examples of the cultural appropriation than my teammates, because it's something that I've had the privilege of not having to be aware of in every moment of my lived existence. And in saying that, I also realise that there's a really important dialogue. When you see something that does look appropriative or is performing in an appropriative way, you don't know who kaupapa Māori, who kaupapa's Māori without asking first or without knowing first. So it's not as simple as this is a very appropriated thing. It is, this needs a further conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a healthier way to approach it, while still being critical of works and wanting to have that investigation in the first place.
An example I've seen of cultural appropriation in games, I remember when I was younger, my cousins were playing this game, Mark of Cree, and the main character, he had a moko kowai on his chin, and I remember seeing that when I was younger. Oh, sorry, for those of you who don't know what a moko kowai is, it's a Māori chin tattoo for women, and the player was male, and he had this moko kowai on his chin. And I remember seeing that when I was younger, and I was just like, what the heck? And I look back at it now, and I'm like, clearly they did not consult with Māori at all, because, you know, a male is meant to have a full face moko, and a female is meant to have a moko kowai. So seeing that, I was just, it's always stuck with me, and I've always remembered it. Yeah.
Adding on to that same thought regarding moko kowai and moko in general, it is interesting that a lot of Māori aesthetics have been found and tried to be emulated in a lot of sort of bad examples. But I think moko definitely stands out to me. Many examples of tribal tattoos misinterpreted entirely, like very much a complete lack of consultation on any front, not even trying. And it seems to be a rather popular motif. I think the most recent example was, of course, the cyberpunk issue. There was a large kōrero regarding, again, like almost exactly the same as Cree, like a moko kowai on a character selection, and that's typically where they're found. And it shows this misunderstanding of its context, the narrative, and the whakapapa that goes into certain moko and what they mean as a milestone, because you see them in like these GTA clones, but it has these bad like ideas attached to them that we don't want. We want them to be important to us in a way, I think it's a perpetuating thing. You see more games doing it now, but I think if we have more of a dialogue, expand upon it, it'll be better for the future.
And there's a lot of examples for anyone who doesn't know me. Over the years, and now seen I've been a bit the big bad wolf. I usually try and handle a lot of that internally within PMs to companies and things like that. But I can list off most of I'll say our, because we're one big whānau here with gaming. Most of my heroes, in terms of studios, they've been buggering up a lot recently. And the key thing is this: Microsoft had KD'd with one person at one time, one person, and that's the kōrero which we're having more and more. You just need one person. You need a consultant. Yes, it is tricky how to go about it, but I could name a game, yes, to some extent. I think the big thing that I find offensive is the lack of interest to learn about the thing which they're profiting off. That goes as far as the Unity Asset Store. I called out Unity Asset Creator 7 years ago. That's not even the appropriate name. Things like that. Now that for me affects me, because if we have a young one in here who's interested in game design, game development, and that's the road they go down, they might be doing a talk up here, and then they have to wait till they get off stage, and I go, hey, who told you that? So that's the problem. The outward-facing media has so much strength in these games that it gets to our young ones, our rangatahi, before I can. So yeah, I can list nearly everyone. A lot of disappointment, but for moving forward, a lot of hope, and also a lot of, pardon my French, but a lot of bumps to boot, lovingly.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, and as a Māori developer, it's even more important for us because we don't want to get it wrong. And so our skills and our strengths are on a technical and graphical side. So we make games to ensure that those games, especially our Māori resources and our own games that we make, where we don't consult with external story writers or anything, we take that high duty of care about where graphics are and how they're placed, even if they're appropriate to go in a certain aspect of a story. So it's quite an important issue, and I guess it gets really annoying when you see something that says it's Māori and it's authentic and all that, and you're like, I mean, you're going to see it 10,000 miles away. And the issue is, cool, you like it, you want to represent it. Did you talk to anyone about it, in the least? Did you have a conversation with somebody? As Iratangi was saying in our team, know that is a critical first step in engaging with anybody for anything, is just have a talk. This sort of leads on to our next question about what do we do to ensure that we're not actually getting it wrong ourselves. You know, what are some of the practical, daily, or some of the processes that we will go through to ensure that if someone does come back to us and say, hey, which we get a lot of, women don't use taiha. So who defended the pā? Well, the men were away. You know, if somebody came to your pā and was going to attack you, did our wahine throw stones at them, or did they get up and fight? So, you know, just some of those comments. So we sort of have to look at not only what we do, but what people perceive on some of the things that we do. So yeah, a question again to our panels. What are some of the steps, or how do we actually work with our Māori story writers or artists? What are some of the processes that we go through to ensure that we're getting it right ourselves, not just for us, but for them as well?
LVR project.
I guess in my experience, I've had the absolutely wonderful opportunity, thanks to the networking of Matia, to work with some amazing Māori artists who've actually been able to approach me, and we've been able to work at like a ground level capacity of actually interfacing the art, like kanohi, kite, kanohi and all that. And in my experience, it's been gratifying, authenticating, and important of all things, yeah, for sure. Like, of course, an example I can think of is a tamako artist we came across recently. Amazing work. I mean, I'm in admiration of the opportunity we have to really dig deep and understand the aesthetic literacy that comes with tamako and its importance and the narratives that we use it to tell our stories in that sense. Like, he had a carving background, and that kind of funneled into his tamako. And when it comes to our gaming context and kind of integrating it, it comes down to having a clear understanding of our limitations and what we want to achieve, what we need to merge, what we need to understand to make it important, how we project these images back into a 3D sense, for example, perhaps 3D characters, of course, for tamako. And what we get is this fantastic, cohesive experience where we can be confident in each other and have a genuine collaboration, sitting next to each other, and like affirm that we're doing it right. Yeah.
That big one, and also to Michaela to lead in. When the team has these sit downs too, for me it's really neat when we bring our storytellers into the office, because I've had a lot of my whānau work at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. And for me, it's just usually I recognise a nose or they recognise my nose. But what's awesome for me is I come and I duck in from the motu, from Wahike, with some kaimoana for one of our storytellers in particular, and then I'll take off, leave these fellas alone, and I come back. And the commonalities through, Te Ao Kemu, through the world of gaming, it connects so much to everything else, and you've had a lot of that, eh?
Yes, I think specifically the thing that question makes me think about is the fact that I have gotten it wrong, and I will definitely get it wrong again in my lifetime, because that's what learning is, and that's what culture is. It's a thing. It's not static. It's going to move, and sometimes I'm not going to be up to pace with that, and that's okay, because first of all, I'm in a company that is so open to helping me learn, which is amazing. But I think one of the most important things, and I have a specific example that I remember. It was the first time that it was actually with you at Rangi. I was calling someone that was very important to your iwi a boy, and you explained to me that Exactly.
I didn't hit it or beat it.
No, and like he totally would have been validated in doing so. It would have been fair, and he explained to me that that wasn't what you do, especially with someone that was important as who I was referring this person to as. And what you do with that information is you take it, you apologize, and then you fix it. You don't sit and sulk. You don't feel like people hate you, because it takes a lot for a person to hate you. And if someone is going through the effort of correcting you, it is for love. It is maybe not for love for you, it might be for love for the thing that they're correcting you for. And it also comes with exhaustion, because they've had to have this dialogue or choose to not have this dialogue on a certain day because it's exhausting to have to do this again and again. So when you have the privilege of being corrected, see it as a privilege, be thankful, move on.
Yeah. Okay, Pai, there's a very Ngāti Pākehā, very honest answer about working with Māori, and we not just in terms of our team, but Māori in general. And we all learn, we all make mistakes. I'll tell you, if we had more time, I could tell you heaps, but we don't have time. But it's all learning. You know, it's a very large learning curve, because we don't have the complexity of just telling a story. We have the complexity of telling that story where it's interactive. You know, I mean, there are choices you're going to make, and there are things that you have to create for that choice. So it's, as you know, as developers, it's not as straightforward as just telling a simple story. Reuben, I'd just like to pick up on a point where you talked about working with our Moku artists. I think Reuben sits with our, so a Moku artist comes in, sits with us. He'll have his iPad where he's done our design just to give you some, I guess, some knowledge about what we do. For a specific example, we wanted him to design a moko, which is a full face tattoo, sorry if you aren't familiar with it all, for our chief in our game. And our artist said to us, Thomas said to me, "What's his whakapapa?" And I said, "Here's his whakapapa." So what is his life? Who is he? What does he represent? You know, what kind of personality does he have? Does he have children? You know, what does he do? So I had that pre-prepared for him. I gave it to him. We sat down, had a talk, and he said, okay. He went away. He came back a couple of days later, sat with us, sat with Reuben, and we applied it to the moko to our 3D character. One of the amazing things about that process was that our moko artist now knows how UV maps work. Because at first he was drawing them flat, and then we'd be like, okay, we'll see how this works first. Didn't quite work. We exported out the UV maps for him, explained to him, you know, curves, you've got to be careful. He went back, did it again, came back, reapplied. So that process in working with Reuben has also taught him knowledge that he didn't have a clue about before, but now he's super, super interested in creating his own 3D characters. He's like, I want to make my own characters. And we're like, you do our moko first, we'll tell you. We'll tell you how to do characters. So it's a two-way learning. You know, we're just not getting all the information from them and applying it to the games and the stories. We're giving them knowledge back. And we're saying, you know, we're getting them excited about the gaming world. We're just not like, yeah, kia ora, we're game developers, we'll tell you a story. It's like, kia ora, haere mai, come to our office, sit with us all day, and they're picking up on all the stuff, and they get really, really excited about it. So anyway, I just wanted to pick up on that point with Reuben sitting with our moku artists, but there's also, I mean, hine tira, you might want to talk about what it's like with the story writers, you know, when you're just having a kōrero with them.
When we sit with our story writers, we're there to listen and learn. We're not there to take over. We're just there to pretty much guide them and like tell them how our the game will be. We're not there to really, how do you say it, like,
Change their vision.
Yeah, change their story. We're there to listen and get as much information as we can out of them, to make the story as authentic as possible. It's their story, where they're from.
All right, I know we're running out of time. I'm going to switch up a little bit, and because you've heard a lot about working with Māori third parties, you know, whether it's Moku or storytelling or whatever, I'm going to talk a wee bit about our game that you saw a snippet of before, called Guardian Maya, and what it's like for us, where we still do have to consult, and we do. As I said before, we work with a Moku artist, but the importance of something that's not based on mythology or not based on any of our purako or anything like that, it's made up, like it's fiction, you know, it's there. How do we work with a fantastic world which is very Māori, very sci-fi and all that? How do we, as a team, work on the different aspects of our game? So as an example, you might have seen in the video our main character rides a moa. If you know what a moa is, it used to be a big giant bird. I don't think we rode them back in the day. I don't think we did that.
Are you sure?
we might have. There's other scenarios in our game which we have hokioi, which is the now extinct also, giant eagle and things like that. So what are some of the approaches that we've had to take when we sit down and have brainstorm sessions about bringing that story to life, and how careful or not careful we are, particularly around Guardian Maya. So this is all about non-fictions. This is like made up stuff, but it still integrates and is based around Te Ao Māori.
A lot of those challenges come from the fact that we're dealing with two tricky things, which are both misted in the unknown. We're dealing with the past and we're dealing with the future. And a big part of it internally in our corridors is to ensure that we have discussions about how that will be received, which is tricky. It's continually tricky. We're always discussing these matters and things of this nature, as well as now that we're having a lot of corridors coming in, having to give up the juice of the corridor of the story, which is, it's not supposed to be known that it's a dystopian future. But I always have to tell my cousins down the road who jump on the bloody Facebook, "Cuzzy, you shouldn't play, shut up, me." It's in the keep the point. And you know, it's that ongoing understanding of how it will be received, and also who will be affected by it. And all of those discussions around that are also dictated by how far we're going to lean it this way or that, in order to make sure that we're not rocking the boat too much.
It's definitely the balance of Guardian Maya already has like a very rich world and it has a very cool story, but because we don't have the game out yet, there's so many delicious pieces that aren't there. So for a lot of the things that seem outlandish or seem like things that people want to ask about, there's almost always a justification for it right now, because we have a cool writing team and they've thought about it. So I guess it's just kind of hanging tight, knowing that there's a method to this madness, I would say.
I think, I think it has actually been in between the balance of what we can really create within our own sort of inventive narrative, but also keeping the okopapa and sort of traditional tikanga Māori elements there, and enough that we can keep it Māori, but also keep it us in our own creative vision. And again, like a lot of the elements that we went about, consultation with Tamoko as well as Mauraka in the future, with a lot of taha usage, and there has to be there in between of what we can pertain as traditional cultural preservation, as well as what we can add to our flair to make it unique.
I think that's the key, because that story is basically made up. It's been a long time in the making. I'm almost shy to say how long, but it's long. And there's a lot. In fact, we've got a prototype of our game, and I was so excited. I put it on our drive, I put it up on unlisted on YouTube because I was going to show it, and the team were like, nope, don't show it, it's not finished. And I'm just like, but I'm so excited, I want to show it. And they're like, no. So I'm not going to show it until it's had a couple more weeks of polish on it. But it's just because it's been a long time coming, and I just can't wait to get it out there. So I've had to like calm my farm, breathe deep, and let it go. It's fine. But I have a question I'm just going to chuck out there because this is for hine te rā. What's it like, hang on a minute, what's it like being the face of a game character called Guardian Maya?
Woo! Yeah! So there are a lot of pros and there are a lot of cons to being a face of a Māori game character. The pros are not everyone gets to be a game character, and it's kind of like a big flex, really, and it's cool. You know, you can see yourself in digital, and like not many people can say that. And another pro is I get to represent Māori girls who look like me, and I'll come back around to that point. I'll list the cons. So the cons are. We have social media nowadays, and we upload all our content, and Maya's in a lot of them. And we get a lot of judgment and a lot of opinions, and a lot of people say, you know, Maya doesn't look Māori, her skin's too white, she doesn't have Māori features. We've even had comments like, Maya's too pretty to be Māori. Yeah. And me, yeah. Me being the social media manager, I'm reading all these comments, and it's kind of like they're saying it to me, even though they're saying these things about Maya. Maya's based off me, it's my likeness, and I'm reading these, and I'm like, I feel like shit, really, because it's like I'm not Māori enough to be Māori. So going back to my last point, I'm glad I can represent Māori girls who can look like me, because there's a lot of Māori girls and boys as well who feel the same way I do, that don't really fit in, you know, too white to fit in with the brown people, too brown to fit in with the white people. So we're kind of like in the middle. Yeah.
I think the most important, I tell her because, you know, I don't like to see those comments, and they're coming from everywhere. Like, oh, she doesn't look Māori. And you know what? It doesn't matter. She whakapapa. Her whakapapa is Māori. Maya's whakapapa is Māori. She is Māori. It doesn't matter the colour of her skin or what she looks like. And she's quite representative of Māori. You know. So even though she said it feels like shit, actually, I think it just stokes her fire a little bit. And she's like, I can, you know, deal with this. So there are definite pros. The pro for me is its convenience. she just happens to be around me 24 hours a day practically because she's my daughter. And how it happened, oh, how much time do I have? Oh, not much. But it just started about 3 years ago when we were releasing our first game book. And I would say to hine, babe, can you put your hair up in a bun just for a minute? I just want to take a photo of profile because I'm modelling here and I just want to get the shape right. I'll put this feather in. Yeah, okay, front, turn around. It was just, you know, reference, a lot of reference material for building the Guardian Maya character. And then one day I got her to put on a costume that I had made for real, like, because it's nice to feel the texture, and so when we're designing. And I said, oh, try this on, I wonder if it'll fit. And she put it on, had her hair up, and I was like, can you, like, do photos, please, so I can use them as really good references? And then before we knew it, she was Guardian Maya. So she's been in mocap suits, she's done voiceovers, all sorts of things. So it's been a really huge learning experience for not just her, but for me too. And also for our team, because I'm going to chuck this question to Reuben, well, actually to everyone that has to work with the real life Guardian Maya right next to them while they're working on Guardian Maya. So there we go.
Oh, it is whimsical. Nah. In all seriousness, I mean, I'm a huge fan of this game. Like, ever since I've been brought into the folds of it, it's been like this dream come true of just seeing this amazing world that Māori's been crafting for some time now, and being a part of the process, not only as what I've contributed thus far, but having the ideas and the resources so close at hand, of course, the creator, and almost like a living version. You get so many wonderful insights as to who Maya is and what her character is and what her experiences, her faults, her strengths, and everything like that. And we can communicate that pretty closely. Like, I often ask, like, acting decisions and things, what would Maya do? What wouldn't she do? And like, I've obviously made a lot of presumptions. You kind of have to as an animator sometimes, but I mean, having such a clear vision of what you want absolutely helps the working process so much. It makes my job so much easier having these people to korero with so closely. So honestly, it's fantastic. I love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, if I see what Reuben's working on and I don't look the best, or he makes me look a bit ugly, I can just easily tell him to like tweak it a little bit. Pretty handy.
Because I do the 2D art, it's been fantastic to have my reference living and breathing and sitting right next to me. And it's been cool when, like, if there's a little bit of downtime at Meteor and I'm doing my own art and I happen to draw a portrait in a certain way that hine or Maru like, they can then go, don't you think Guardian Maya would look quite cool like that? And then away we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love seeing it, you know, because say when you first come in, Gil, which is because our Maru and I is whakapapa too, we're whananga, say we're cousins, and when this one first came in, they a bit quiet, and then I thought to myself, what I need is one of these at the whare, like how we've got one at work, because it was like 5 minutes in the door, you're telling them what to do, and I'm thinking, oh no, because there's Guardian Maya telling you what to do. So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome, and then just quickly on the end of that, to see a young wahine Māori as well tackling these issues, coming through these discussions is integral. The future of all of our people in Aotearoa, it's awesome, and I just love to see the dynamic in our office. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we're almost at our time, and I want to save some space for questions as well. But I think just some takeaway for you out there in the audience who are thinking about working with Māori stories or having Māori content and whatever you're developing, just to sum up the points made today, don't be shy, or you can't be shy to connect with Māori, you know, with experts in their fields, whether it's art, moko, maurako, anything, just connect with them, you know, take the step forward. Figure out where you can go, because it all depends on where you live, on who you can go to as well, your local iwi or hapu. And if you're not able to connect there, Creative NZ, you can call agencies like IDEA, who's across the road here, that will lead you in the right direction. I guess connect to others who are on the journey or who have been through the journey. Like, we get a lot of, hey maru, hey maru, hey maru, hey maru. And then I'm more than happy to have that conversation. So there's direct contact with other developers. And once you have contacted them or whoever, it's really important to just have a good connection, because you're going to be working with these people. Then you have to connect really well to them. Listen, don't talk too much. Listen, first of all, because when you listen, you get to understand what it is that you'll be working with. Collaboration is a big thing. Don't just say, hey, I need you to be a consultant. Bring them in to your office. Bring them into your studio. Let them see what you are doing. Let them see their characters being created, and let them have feedback on that. It's long, we know, we have all day hui sometimes, but it's important. Just don't take their art and say, I know what to do with it, and put it on whatever. Take it, put it on, ask them, is this correct? Yes, okay, you can move on now. If it's not correct, fix it. Otherwise, it loses its essence. And think about what your motivation is. Why do you want to have Māori content in your stories or in your games? What's your motivation? Think about the purpose and articulate that really clearly with whomever it is you're going to work with. It's really about, if you look at Te Ao Māori in general, it's an ecosystem of values. One doesn't really work without the other. So if you apply that to your how you work with Māori in general, it's the same thing. Show your hospitality, show that you want to do this with aroha, with love, because it just makes for better resources and gaming experiences when it's authentic, when it's come from a real place. We're running out of time, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask some questions from us, from anyone here. Oh,
We've got them on the app.
oh, the app. Such a hard time with this app. All right. All right, okay. What would you say to people who want to start using more te reo in their everyday language, but they're not from New Zealand? One te reo speaker.
Well, I think a lot of the same applies. You should absolutely make some networking in New Zealand, have a kōrero with some Māori consultants, absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting circumstance. I can't speak too much on it, but yeah, I definitely think the same rigorous consultation, contacting. I mean, if you're in a different country, Zoom, absolutely. Do everything in your power to make it correct, I guess, yeah.
I think another point too is just use the language. I'm still learning te reo myself. So I'm not a fluent speaker, I'm not a native speaker. I was unfortunately that generation that missed the whole kohanga thing, but my daughter had that opportunity to go through total immersion and grow in te reo Māori. So she's the fluent speaker. That's no excuse for me not learning, but I'm still on a journey myself of learning te reo. My daughter's very good at correcting me, which is great because that's part of the learning process. So I think one of the things you can do is use the language as much as you can. Like, I hear a lot of people that aren't Māori who are talking to their babies, little ones, and say, oh, is your puku full? No, puku. Oh, she said puku. It was just one word, like tummy, is your puku full? And I do that all the time. I used to do that to my kids. Where are your who? My beautiful language. But it's just using as many words as you can all the time to be confident. So that's a process I do. Yeah. And you might have something to say about that, reo speaker.
There's a lot of, if you want to learn more, there's a lot of online resources you can use as well. Just try and speak it every day. Doesn't need to be sentences, as Mum said, just words, simple words. And by saying things every day, you'll get more confident, and you'll learn more, and then you'll become fluent. But,
So I want to get this question in too, because I think it's important, and in fact it might be only a chance for me to answer, because the time. Is there a risk that a Māori person consulted might be used as a shield by a company to avoid criticism? How can one protect oneself?
Oh.
Okay, that's kind of like what we are, not on one side yes and on the other side no, but that's an important point. Whoever asked that question, it's, the due diligence in finding the right person will be hard. It's like, do I connect with this person? Is this the right consultant to go with? What you will have to do is find who they've worked with before and look at their work. What has this person done before? They've worked with so-and-so, or they've worked with so-and-so. Word of mouth is really important. So if somebody says, go talk to such and such, then go talk to such and such. because it can happen, it does happen. We designed the coronavirus with a moko on because we got a Māori artist to do it. And it's like, yeah, who was the Māori artist? So I don't know anything about that, but there was a big thing about a coronavirus being drawn with a moko. For us, it was like, oh my God, who the hell did that? But anyway, so I'm getting the wave down. We've come to the end of our panel. She's like, cut it off. So we're at the end, but we have some questions here, and I don't know how we will answer them later.
We can answer them on the Facebook or on the TikTok and fun TikTok videos.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't got TikTok, get TikTok, because that's where we share all of our content and answer a lot of the questions that come through for the game or anything. But otherwise, we're contactable through our website. So ngā mihi, thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Kia ora.